Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. I'm Christine, life balance coach and world champion ballroom dancer, and I believe that everyone has the power to create their very own life by design. The Recovering Perfectionist Podcast was created with a mission to encourage a life of abundance by finding peace and acceptance in our own imperfections and developing healthy self-love through sustainable habits and manifestation. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I am so excited. I'm always excited, but it's always fun when I have people on as a guest that, I have a special connection with. And I am here today with Miss Kelly Langstaff. She is a career coach and mentor. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
And Kelly and I met in a coaching container space with a mutual coach. And we have formed this beautiful sisterhood bond and helped each other out. And we're going to kind of dive deeper into that today and kind of what Kelly does and how she got to this point. And it's just so awesome. So glad we're finally doing this because it's been a long time coming. But Kelly,
our program ended over a year ago, which is crazy to think about.
That's nuts.
It's been a year.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and we've never actually met in person, which is also crazy, but we feel so connected to each other. And we both live in California, which is even crazier because we just need to make the intentional time to do so.
It's a big state.
It's a big state. But I'm just really excited to chat with you. Let's start with kind of the journey. Let's talk about where we both were maybe a year ago, specifically, you and, how you got into your transition from you did this real 9-to-5 to entrepreneur switch, but you gave yourself the grace to do it. So maybe just kind of start there.
Sure. So when we met in our coaching program, it was fall 2020, I think. So obviously that was kind of peak COVID pandemic. The world has just kind of been shut down for, 9 months. And where I was entering the beginning of 2020 and where I was ending 2020 was probably the biggest shift ever in my life. And I feel now I have, the terminology to call it these quantum leaps and things like that. But at the time it was just a total 180 of the life I was living. So even rewinding before then, just for some background, I'm born and raised in California, but I spent my college years and after in New York City. And I've had a career in corporate marketing pretty much since I graduated college. So with, internships, and it's very much the ambitious, achievement focused millennial that I think many of us are.
Yeah.
And my career, my mom was a big career person. My dad was too, we were always in daycare versus the stay-at-home mom kind of lifestyle. So that was something that was always really clear to me that I wanted was success in that very corporate way. I went to school for film and television. I was kind of an art student because I've always had this kind of creative, sensitive side as well. But after school, I very much was okay, I want stability, I want structure, I want corporate. And I bounced around from film and media jobs at big networks while I was in New York. And then I transitioned into the tech industry when I moved back home to San Francisco. And I've been at large companies, small startups, and a real big shift for me happened when one of my bosses hired me a coach. And during this time, I would say I was happy, or I thought I was happy. I was definitely struggling, but it's one of those things that you don't realize you're struggling that much because everyone is just doing the same things as you,
Right.
like my 20s were basically, I'm 31 now. So and I mark kind of my time in New York as my 20s because I was like college age when I moved there and when I left. And it was very much a just complete hustle of wake up early to go to the gym, go from gym to work, like make sure you have everything with you. You can't make mistakes. Like after work, there's a happy hour. Then from the happy hour, you go to dinner. And then after the dinner, you go to like the drinks. And it was just that for like 10 years. And so I really wasn't nourishing myself in any way, shape, or form. Work was really rewarding because I kept, succeeding. I'm doing air quotes since this is only audio.
Right.
But it was really interesting to kind of keep in that trajectory.
Sorry to cut you. Yeah, you were succeeding. You said the air quotes in the sense of like what society deemed as succeeding,
or what I
achieving.
Thought I wanted at the time. Because the answer was always like more money, right? Like, I make $70,000 at this job. Like, if I can only make $90,000 in my job, that my life would be so much better. And so I kept chasing, just those salary increases. But from a lifestyle perspective, my life was very much a rat race and just really exhausting. And it really took its toll. So now we're at January 2020. My body shut down completely, like full
burnout
flu,
central.
Burnout, the classic spiritual, like I developed a chronic illness. It was like that for me.
Burnout is diagnosable now. Like it's a thing.
Mine was, but when it starts to like manifest as like physical symptoms in your body, like that's like your body is literally screaming at you to be like, we need a change. Like we can't do this anymore.
Yep.
At the time I was working at a startup that was just like a ridiculous product and spending money like a joke. Like I couldn't even watch the show Silicon Valley on HBO because it like wasn't funny because it was like my life.
It was your life.
It was
oh my
gosh. It wasn't funny to me because the stuff they were making fun of was like, oh my God, I have to like talk to these people every day. But we had the fancy office and the like free lunch every day. So like those things start to feel like the more important stuff. And I was, making a lot of money. You have your equity and that kind of stuff. But when my body started to shut down, I started getting like chronic hives was how it manifested for me. And that was kind of the first time where I was like, okay, I think like things are not as good as I think they are in my life. And then a couple months later, COVID happened. My startup crashed and burned 2 months into the pandemic. 60 people lost their jobs. And that was even more of okay, what is life if, I don't have a career right now? And so a lot of that like panicky kind of energy was there. But then, so it took a real low to be like, okay, what next? Or like, what now? And like for the first time, it was like not about what job do I get next? It was like deeper than that. It was like, what do I want my life to be? And what do I want to feel like? And
what questions, like these questions that you're right. I mean, when you're working that 9 to 5, especially in the tech world, it's just like, what job should I get next? How much more money can I make? How much, how much more skills can I create to put on a resume to look better, to get a better job versus like you're saying, like these new developments of like, what do I actually want my life to look like? What kind of quality of life do I want to live? That's a whole different
completely
conversation.
And I think in careers, it's kind of similar to relationships. Actually, we tend to be very reactive and we tend to be like, okay, I was with someone who was really avoidant, so I'm gonna like go to someone who's like really clingy, and then you're like, well, that person's too clingy, so then you're like back to someone who's really or like or that guy was like really like wild and adventurous, it was too much for me, so now I'm with someone really safe, but like he's really boring, so now I'm back. Like, and you kind of like, and we do that in our jobs too. And I noticed it a pattern with me. I would go from like large comfy corporation to risky startup because I would get bored in the comfy corporation. I would want more impact. I want more autonomy. So I'd go join these risky things based on like what I got to do there more than like what the product was and how like well the company would do. It was like a very narrow focus of like, well, this is going to be good for me. But ultimately it was a very like short-sighted pattern that I was like really ready to kind of break. But when I was in this moment of like, okay, what really has like lit me up in the past, like what is interesting to me? And I would flash back to this kind of moment where one of my bosses had given me a career coach when I was like middle manager employee at one of my tech jobs. I was pissed at the time when I got this coach because I wanted a promotion. Like I wanted more money. I wanted the title.
Right.
And in our little review, she was like, actually, you have a lot of growth that you need to do. And I was like, what are you talking about? Tell me what tasks I need to do to have growth. Like I was that very focused on like that type of thing.
That's normal though. I feel like that's a lot of people is they're like, just tell me what
really,
I need to grow in and I'll do it. But it's not, everybody's growth is different. And that type of deep work growth that now we've both been through after all of this is like, that's not something you could just be like, here, check this off a list. It's like,
well,
no.
you think that career growth is just so like responsibility focused and skills focused and like, oh, if I just, do these projects or I'm the lead on this, then I'll, learn what I need to learn. But what I learned through coaching is that like personal growth is actually the only way for career growth to happen. Like you need to learn the big life lessons of like, don't take everything personally and like 4 agreements and you are in control of your life and you are responsible for your own happiness. And like, so those were just really big, and like the chaos that's happening around you is like because of the choices you're making, not because of any external like force. So it was a big reckoning. And I loved, it really set me on this like, it started as like a psychology, personal growth kind of path that I followed. I read a lot of Brene Brown and Glennon Doyle and was just very much like, these people have so much good nuggets to like share. And I didn't really get into like the spiritual part of anything at all until this like low moment of 2020. I followed an Instagram post on a whim that was like, learn about manifestation. And I was like, fucking, I need something because I don't know if I can swear on your podcast, but totally. Like, it was one of those just like Hail Mary, like clearly I don't know what I'm doing because I don't have what I want. So I might as well try something I've never tried.
Do you want different? You got to do different.
Exactly. So, fast forward 6 months after that, I was joining a coaching course with you. I was in kind of an entry manifestation course, and that really just taught me deeper lessons of kind of some of the personal growth stuff that I'd been learning. It helped me get out of a relationship that was really negative. And I had like the best couple months of my life living on my own. I moved to a new town. And I really just got extremely clear on like what I wanted my life to be and what I wanted it to look like.
That is like the understatement, by the way, for people who don't know Kelly. Like when she says she got really clear, like she like would come on these calls and be like, okay, guys, so here's the deal. I want someone in my life that looks like this. I want to be the person that for me, like looks like this. I want to own a farm with chickens and all the, like, she's like, she would like give us a visual of the day that she wanted to go through on this farm. And it was so incredible to hear you dream. And now to hear what your life, I'm cutting to the end here, but I just wanted people to know
spoiler
the visualization
alert.
for you was real.
Yeah. So I dove into my like human design and I started learning just a lot of these different modalities of spirituality, and something I kind of continued from. I learned eventually that this is part of my human design is a reflector. And I'm also line 3-5, which means I like to sample things and try a lot of different things. So I'd been doing this my whole life. I didn't really understand why. But especially with the spirituality stuff, I love to just be like, ooh, this is really valuable from that. And ooh, this is really valuable from that, without becoming like an expert in anything. And as we were starting to niche down, as they say, in our coaching, I was a little bit shy of this idea of being a like corporate career coach, because in the spiritual world, corporate is like Satan. Like everyone has, pretty much everyone, this is what I realized at least, like everyone who has become an entrepreneur is because they have an extremely negative like trauma experience with corporate that they have not healed. They are just like, fuck that, I'm gonna start my own business because it's worth it. And I recognized that for what it is like, well, that's great for everyone who like wants to be an entrepreneur, but that's not for everybody. And there's plenty of people, you know, I noticed it so often when I was still in these corporate environments, because through all this, I was still, you know, working in corporate. I just quit my corporate job like 3 weeks ago. So I'm very baby new full-time coach. But yeah, it's exciting. We can get to that in a little bit later. But something I just noticed was like, there's this really big market and like group of people, like, you know, every meeting I would be in, every team I would join, I would just notice these people that like were just like me before I discovered all this stuff of like, you know, facing burnout, physical symptoms starting to manifest from their frustration, feeling really lost, not really knowing what to do in a lot of these difficult situations. And work can be so traumatic in those ways because there really isn't, in most cases, someone to like guide you, like your boss is doing this to you, what do you do? Or, you know, you want to go interview, you want to switch to this career path. How do you do that? And I was pretty scrappy and kind of figured out a lot of this on my own, but I just really noticed this lack of empathy and sensitivity and like spirituality in the corporate world, specifically around like finding work that felt like you and really authentic, and like really taking time to ask these questions of like, what does success mean? Like, what is my definition? And also like a big part of it is understanding your own work like story. Like, what has work meant for you your whole life? Like, I know when we talked about yours, Christine, like your father was an entrepreneur, so that like super heavily influenced your journey. And, you know, oftentimes we don't even have this full awareness of what's making us make the decisions we make. So I really tried to build, or I am trying to build my business around just like a thoughtful approach to career paths and like career journeys, because I think there's a lot to be fixed in the corporate world, and it is my duty as a reflector to be a mirror to the collective and try to, you know, make impact where I can. And I think, you know, business is ultimately about people, and I would just, every job I had, I was getting so distracted by the people. It would be like, do these tasks, and I'd be like, but so-and-so is going through blah. I was like always so drawn to the helping people be the best versions of themselves and figure out their superpowers. And it was just, so yeah, eventually.
You've always been that way though. And so when we joined, for those of you who are into human design, you know, I had someone on that talked about human design. Her name is Meredith. And so go back and listen to that episode for sure. I can put it in the resources section here, but a reflector, like I'm a projector. So a reflector is someone like you, there's this energy about you. And we didn't all know this before. Even you didn't know what you were until we all did it in this course. And it wasn't even a human design course. We just all found it because other people were doing it. But the connections that we've built through this, being in this coaching space and jumping on calls every week and going through these like intense, like you said, quantum shifts, we created really this sisterhood and this bond of helping each other. And so when, you know, Kelly was talking about, how, yeah, she knows my story with my dad and my entrepreneurial journey, because I reached out to her so many times and we created this little subgroup, right? With Yumi and Kenzie, who's also on the podcast. And the three of us would kind of like have like, like a second conversation after we would have it with our coach, to just kind of like reel it all in, because there was so much going on between the three of us that we were like, we needed some extra time to just kind of like absorb it all.
Yeah, it really became the first environment too where I was getting to, and I think it was the same for you and Kenzie, we were getting to practice coaching on each other, and we were getting to learn, because like I didn't have clients yet, like I didn't have we all kind of started a different place. Like some people knew they wanted to do a coaching business, some people knew blah blah. I was just like ground zero, but in our big group and in these subgroups, and there's many women that I'm still super tight with, following this program. That's like the best part of it, the community and the sisterhood, like you said. But it was these moments of like, I think I can help, and like really getting to practice sharing your voice and like thoughts without telling people what to do, and learning how to ask questions that would potentially, push the person to go a little deeper with themselves. And so it was a really, because we were all there and for a similar purpose, right? To build a business for ourselves, but we all had such unique backgrounds and stories of like where we were at in our lives and what areas of struggle we kind of were facing. Like you and Kenzie were both really confident in relationships, and I was like super single at the time and really like, I don't even know how I'm ever going to find a partner, blah blah blah. And then like with work stuff, I was able to be like, oh well, work's really easy, and you just kind of realize, like we often
we were flipped. It was like Kenzie and I were trying to figure out like how we're going to make our next paycheck, and Kelly was over here like, oh my god, I just like got this job and it's paying me like 10 grand a month, and we're like, what? But then same thing, like I was planning a wedding, and I'm now married to the love of my life, and Kenzie was kind of in a relationship trying to figure out, but she was also building such a strong relationship with herself, and you were in you weren't in the best situation and had to walk away from that and get back into the dating pool, and you were unsure, and there was a lot going on. So it's like, it was a very interesting trio that we had going, where we all had different areas of strength, and that helped us to feel like, oh, there's hope. Like we would look at each other and help each other out in the areas like, yeah, well, I've been there and this is how I overcame that, or this is what a mindset of someone who is comfortable in that genre of life is going through. And it's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Right.
Yeah. I also think it's really important when we have those kinds of conversations, because it shows you that like there are areas in your life that it's almost like an unconscious competence kind of, right? Like you're so good at it, you don't realize that you're good at it, and how naturally it comes to you and how easy it is. We just focus so much on what we don't have, or what we're lacking, or what we struggle with. And so when we do get to focus on these areas that are a strength for us, and really like realize that like, oh, we are capable of abundance in like this category, so why, like, how do I transfer that, or how do I apply those same strategies to these other areas? And that for me was like the biggest breakthrough, I think, with like, okay, like systematically, let's improve my life. And money was like, romance was an area that I was like, okay, I need to definitely fix this. I've now, been dating my boyfriend for a little over a year. We live together. He's the best ever. We're trying to start a family. It's like really crazy stuff. But we're super happy. But yeah, I felt really like lost for a while there, and, dated a lot of frogs, if you will. But money was another area that I totally had to change my story, because even though I'd had these corporate jobs and, jobs that paid well. Money was never, I just had a negative relationship with it. I grew up, upper middle class. I worked since I was in high school, but that was always like my spending money. So my connection with money became, oh, I make $200 for my restaurant job. I have $200 to spend. Like that was the foundation of it. So as that kind of grew, oh, I got, $1,000 for my job. Oh, I have $1,000 to spend. Like I never learned those money management, like budget, anything like that. And then as I was living in New York in my 20s, definitely over my means, at some really, low paying film industry jobs, I definitely got into a lot of debt. I'd have to ask my parents for money, which really was hard on my parents and I's relationship because they would say no after a while. And then it would just be this whole, I was afraid to tell them. And so there was a lot of healing that needed to happen around that. But I kind of using the tools that I learned about these other areas of how to dig in and really understand what's happening at the root of this. I realized everything is just a story we tell ourselves and we get to change the story. And so the story that I was telling myself with money was, I'm bad at money. I'm bad at spending money. I'm bad with money. If you give me money, I'm going to do something stupid with it. I can't trust myself with money, that kind of thing. And it was simply, and this sounds so silly, but I was how simple it is. I mean, I was really, really, really tired of my own bullshit. I was really tired of my own story. I was tired of the story that I'm bad at money because I don't have to be. I'm not bad at a lot of other things. Why am I saying I'm bad at this one thing? I can change this. And so I changed the story I told myself to be, I'm learning to be good with money. I'm learning to be someone who is good with money, because I'm good with money felt, no, I'm not good. That's too much. That's too big of a leap. But I picked this little new phrase that was okay, I'm learning. So then when a situation presented itself with money, I was no longer bad with money. I was learning to be good with money. So what does someone who's learning do? They maybe ask a friend, they research it, they read a book, they listen to a podcast. They're open to, new ideas and new ways of solving things. And that totally healed that area of my life. And then I had a really incredible financial success. One of the companies I used to work for IPO'd. So we were able to, that kind of manifestation opened a lot of doors down the road, including being able to purchase my dream farm, which is pretty crazy. Incredible. So yeah, I have, a year ago, I was in my little apartment by myself in a bad part of town. And now I live on 2 acres, near Monterey, California. And we've got trees, and I don't know if you can hear the birds outside, but we have chickens, and it's just really magical. So I can't undervalue the importance of really getting clarity on what you want in life. And then also just believing that it's possible. And, everyone's timelines are different, but it's really about, taking responsibility and knowing that it's up to you. The reason there's stuff in your life that you don't like or that's shitty is because you're allowing it to stay there, essentially. Yeah. If you're in a job you don't like, you're choosing to stay there and be there. No one's forcing you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that doesn't mean that if you make different choices, it's not going to be maybe what you consider to be a more difficult road, but it's going to be one that's going to give you a better quality of life at the end of it. And what's your alternative? Stay where you are and do nothing, and be miserable. Yeah. That's, for me, is the scariest part. It's scarier than putting myself out of my comfort zone and possibly failing. And, failure doesn't affect me. A lot of people are scared of failure, but I'm well, failure is part of success. So you gotta, just keep failing and fail forward and fail often. But more than that is just next year being in the exact same place I am right now. That's terrifying to me. So everyone has their own fears. what I would love to chat about a little bit is just, you are someone that and maybe you weren't always like this. I know we just kind of heard your journey, but you can clarify that for me, is your ability to give yourself grace and your ability to give yourself time to discover, to fully let the universe tell you what it needs, or what you need. And I am not a very patient person. I kind of rush the process a lot, as you know.
No.
No, I want to do the work, but I also like, I'm
You want it
not,
right now.
I'm not getting any younger, and that I want to live my life and have the success and have the money and have the ability to travel freely and do all the things. Like COVID really hit me hard because I felt like I lost 2 years of my 30s. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, where did it all go? Like, if we want to start a family and do all of that, like, we got to get moving on some of these bucket list things. And so the ability for you to have given yourself the time to truly sit with yourself and your feelings. I remember when you took a trip to that log cabin. Do you remember? With the bathtub that filled from the top. I was like, oh my God, like, you were, we were doing our calls and you were like, I'm calling you guys from the cabin. And you truly gave yourself the time. I know I reached out to you about the podcast many, many times, and you just weren't ready. And I respected that, but I also wanted you to know that it was still here, for you to express yourself and share your journey once you were ready. And, this amazing guy that's come into your life, and the farm, and all this other things that you've manifested. But you weren't worried about, oh, I got it. Like, I took this course to be a coach and I'm not a coach, and I don't even know what I want to coach people on. And you let that journey be very organic and raw. And I want you to kind of maybe speak on that. Was it easy to do that? Is that just your nature? Or is it something you had to like sit yourself down and be like, I'm going to allow myself to have this time? Or what was your thought process there?
I mean, I think it's a couple things. Well, first of all, like, thank you. That's very nice to observe a quality about me that I don't think I compliment myself on that enough. But it's a good question. I would say it's kind of a couple things. Like, one is I have a very healthy relationship with time. I believe time is something that we create. I don't think time is something that is like taken from us. Like, I think time is something, and I learned this there's a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's like a very short chapter, but I think it's miraculous. He calls it like Einstein time. And, you see all these memes that are like, Beyonce has the same amount of hours as you in the day, or like that right. And there's so many like time milestones growing up of like, oh, Forbes 30 under 30, or like, I remember being a teenager and being annoyed, or like being in my 20s watching American Idol and being annoyed that the people on it were younger and more successful than me. Yep. And I was like, okay, that doesn't like help me by being like annoyed at them. But that took a while. It definitely took a while to get there. But in my busy kind of like corporate days, I really just changed the way I look at time. And instead of my day being, this 9-10 hour thing that people could take things away and then I have nothing left for me, I started being like, what do I want to do today? And what is for me today? And it was as simple as like, in my really low lows, I made a list on my phone that was like, it said read, yoga, cook, or something like that. And I knew if I did one of those things that day, I would have a better day, because those things brought me joy, brought me happy. Fast forward to our coaching experience where we learned that that's like a real thing called like our bliss list. And, you can create your own, and I do it with all my clients now. But I was already drawn to that instinct of like, okay, I need to fill my day with stuff that matters to me versus stuff that's for other people. So that's kind of like the small scale version of it. And then when you stretch that out to being about life, I believe that, well, first of all, there's just like a deep trust in like the universe taking care of me. Like, I really That's something I really fostered in the manifestation work that we did, that I am exactly where I need to be. I don't miss anything that's meant for me. If I get rejected from something, that is a redirection. That is me avoiding something that wasn't meant for me. Every experience I go through is a lesson. The kind of non-spiritual version of this is just like a growth mindset. There's like a book called Mindset. That's a psychology book from a professor at Stanford. And she just straight up says, okay, there's 2 types of people in the world and 2 ways to think about life. That's it. There's 2, not like 7 ways of blah, blah, blah. 2 ways. You're either a growth mindset or you're a fixed mindset. And a growth mindset is, okay, I can learn to do that. I can make that happen. There is a way, there is a possibility. Everything from, learning to play an instrument, or I just don't have any talent, I'm not good at that, or money, I'm bad at money. Like those are fixed mindset things. So a fixed mindset person thinks that this is the way it has to be, and this is the way I am, and that's the way it is. Like that's kind of their attitude. And a growth mindset person is like, okay, what if there's a bunch of other ways this could happen? And like, I don't know all the answers. That's like the biggest part of it, is admitting that you don't know the answers. So I think for me, that was a really big piece of this too, because I don't have to do anything right now. Like there's no rule telling me that it needs to happen right now. And some of that urgency, I think, can come from a more fixed mindset of like, if I don't do it now, then this negative thing will happen, or this and I just didn't believe those stories and like rules, because I just had a lot more trust in, I'll know when it's right and I'll know when I feel ready. And I chose to keep working in the corporate setting because I knew that having money and having, health insurance and having more money than I needed and being able to save and, feel comfy and safe, that was really a priority to me for my well-being. Like I knew that not having the stress of that was a huge gift. And I knew that having a job where I was a contractor versus, having to go work in an office important, I was like, oh, that feels really good for me, because I was going through this time where I was really needing to heal and really needing to focus on myself. And so eliminating some of those really stressful things I gave myself, the space and the energy to be able to do those things. I also made the choice to move to a place that made me really happy. I moved to Santa Cruz. I moved to the beach. I walked on the beach every day. It was beautiful. Just like nature, gorgeous. And like those choices set up myself for a better success than if I was like still in San Francisco in an apartment with roommates. Like that would have been a much harder like environment to make this work. Or like I had the choice when I was breaking up with an ex, do I go and live home and live with my parents? And I was unemployed at the time. This was like after the layoff. And the rational me was like, oh yeah, of course you should go live at home.
Right.
You're not going to have any money. You need to save money and live at home until you find a job. But some nudge inside me was like, no, that's not how you get better. Like you get better by doing this other thing. And so I think it's a combo of just like really listening to yourself, not setting any rules for yourself that aren't true. Like you mentioned, like you're under time pressure to have a family and travel, and you lost all this time. Like those are all really fixed mindset beliefs, right? Because you don't have to like look at this time as a loss. Like what did you gain from this time? Like a lot. Like your life has shifted in a lot of ways. You got married, you're in a new state, you have a new business. Like there's gorgeous things in your life.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, if I would have traveled when I wanted to at the beginning of the pandemic, like we were supposed to, I would have been running away and I would have come back to the same problem. So I definitely see it now as like the universe was helping me to go through this deep work and grow my business and really like stop running, Christine, stop traveling.
Yeah.
Focus on this thing, get it done, be successful, and then you can go travel and enjoy your life. And so I see that now, and we're finally going and doing our big trip in a couple of months. So I'm stoked.
Exciting. Where are you going?
Yeah. So we're going to Europe. We're going to start in France and my country, and then we're going to go to Italy and Barcelona and Amsterdam, and it's going to be amazing.
Wow.
We're going to be in Europe for like 2 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're finally doing it. So I do see that now, but yes, my relationship with time has been kind of like your relationship with money. It's been something I have definitely struggled with for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the belief that just like, I'm not missing anything is a really, really, really important one. Like what is meant for me cannot miss me. It is not physically possible. Like I am truly, like I can relax because all I have to do is listen to my intuition and like take care of my energy. And then like the rest kind of becomes really, really clear. So like crazy, and the universe will like give you signs and stuff, however like deep you want to go. But typically, even before I got spiritual, I was able to look back at my life and see that like, oh, the universe has always been being like, go do this. And I just like have been brave enough to listen. Right. So it's lucky, like people call it luck, but I think like there's an Oprah quote that's like, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity.
That's right.
So that's like that.
Yeah, I'm not a big luck believer. I'm very much of like alignment and intentionality.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's why I like start with my clients, like rather than, oh, let's go like browse LinkedIn for 10 hours. Like, no, like let's raise your energy first. Let's figure out who you are first. And then guess what? The jobs are going to be like everywhere. Right. And it's really funny how they're like, it's so weird. A recruiter reached out to me. I'm like, oh yeah.
How weird, right?
How strange.
So yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that, right? What you're doing now with your coaching. Now you're ready.
Yeah.
You're branding yourself. You quit your job, your corporate job, which is a huge, like jumping out of an airplane with no parachute for you kind of thing.
I was definitely the universe. I was not ready, but the universe was like, yes, you are.
That's it.
I like knew it was building to some kind of conversation. You know, I sent out my January newsletter where I was like, here's my goals to my clients of like, here's my goals for 2022. And like my last big goal was like, I'm going to leave corporate and step full time. And then literally the next day at work, I noticed this career, or on our career site of our website, that there was a job posting that was like for my job that I was currently employed at. It was like head of marketing something, and I was like marketing lead something. And I was like, what? And you know, you like totally cycle or like freak out, like fuck, like what does this mean? But meanwhile, I'd been like pretty frustrated at the role. It was very different than what I had, expected it to be. I was feeling really drained. A lot of my symptoms were coming back from some of my chronic illness stuff that I'd healed. And my doctor was kind of saying like, look, like this isn't something that you can like do for your health. Like you need to kind of, it was like I was saying I was gluten-free and then going home and eating a pizza every night and being like, why does my body hurt? It's like, well, because you're not getting rid of the thing that is there, or is causing the problem. So I knew it'd been building to some kind of like conversation with my boss, but I was like, I don't want to like have that conversation. That's a hard conversation. Like I'm just gonna kind of like in my journaling and in my conversations with my intuition, because that's how I journal sometimes. I'm like, hi intuition, what do you have to tell me? And then they just like, I just get messages and I write them down. And it was like, I was like, show me the exit, show me the way out, like all that kind of stuff. And then like immediately, I see this thing and I'm like, oh fuck, I have to have the conversation now. Like I can't just like ignore that. So I reach out to my boss and he's like, oh no, nothing to worry about. That's like a totally different thing. But we should talk because like we're doing performance reviews and like yours is Monday morning. And I was like, oh my God, like now I really have to have this conversation. And I was like terrified to have it because obviously I knew this was the moment, like this was the thing I'd been praying for, like this was the universe being like, here you go. I didn't feel ready at all, but you know, because like there was a version of me even back when I was at my Google contract job of like, oh, once I save, you know, $30,000, then I'll be ready. But it was like, yeah, I got to 30,000, then what? You know,
You're
like
never ready. Yeah.
You're never ready. It's not a financial thing.
No.
It's so yeah, so I end up having this conversation and I like go full authentic self and just like kind of tell him how I've been feeling, and like a brilliant metaphor comes to me, and I actually get to go into like coaching mode a little bit where I'm like, look, like this is what you think the situation is, and this is kind of like how I'm feeling, and this is actually like gonna work out for the best for both of us. And he totally got to see me in a new light, because he was seeing me as, you know, an employee that wasn't super excited about their work, so I wasn't like performing, you know, outstanding, because I was always wanting to like work on being a team lead and a manager and like helping everyone else be successful. And he's like, no, but I just need you to like do these tasks. And I was like, I think like you don't want me for this job. I don't want me for this job either. Right. And so really like rapidly he was like, okay, how about last day Friday? And I was like, okay. And so 2 weeks into January, I was out. Kind of before, definitely before I was ready, but so it's been about a month, and I have been a full-time entrepreneur, which is pretty exciting. I immediately got a couple clients. Like the universe is just so incredible in these moments, like random emails of like, oh, hey, like my friend referred me to you and I'd love to like learn more, like just no effort, like really soul aligned clients that showed up for me when I really like took the risk and did that for myself. I had another big like moment yesterday. I posted on LinkedIn that I was a coach, which has been like a really scary thing for me to do, because I've been a coach for the last year. Like I've had clients pretty regularly, you know, I'm making a couple $1,000s a month, like nothing that I felt ready to like step away from work for, but still like, you know, not nothing. I wasn't doing it for free anymore as I was at the beginning of my journey. And I was getting really good at it. I really like love it and enjoy it. And so I did this like LinkedIn post because I was so terrified to like truly come out of the coaching closet, if you will, to my corporate community. Like that is every job I've ever had, every colleague, every whoever. And I just had so many fears around like, they're going to be like, she wasn't even good at blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? Or like all the stories I was making up in my head, but like, what do I say? How do I say it? And I just kind of got a burst of energy yesterday and did the post, and it's just been the most incredible like feedback and just support, and like people from jobs from like my 20s in New York being like, oh my God, Kelly, like I would love to talk to you. I'm feeling so lost in my career. And just so it's like, it's such a needed, like special thing. And it just feels so good to be living really authentically and actually just doing work and creating work that's like helpful for people, because I think the millennial generation especially is just, you know, we are raised by boomers, but we have very different values than them as far as like what life should be and what success means to us. And so the grappling of those two is really difficult. And so yeah, I really am excited to step into this full time and really just share everything I've lived and experienced as far as how to, you know, like be the guide and the mentor that I like wish I had, you know, during all those corporate years where I felt so lost and sacrificed so much of my own happiness for my career. And so I really believe that it's super possible to find work that brings you joy, like feels authentic. Maybe it's starting your own business, maybe it's not. Like, not entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. But what I really try to do with my work and with my clients is just start with you and start with your energy. And, you know, I brand it for corporate people. So I don't really say like, oh, we're going to manifest and we're going to like blah, blah, blah. But all of that is definitely sneakily thrown in there.
Of course,
so
of course.
It's all of my
Yeah.
sampling of all the things.
Yeah.
Just to discover kind of your own superpowers. And, you know, like we were saying of our unconscious competence, like finding that, you know, for you, like, and what kind of roles and teams and environments are going to feel the best for you, and really building up the confidence to be able to navigate those.
I love that. Finding joy in the work you do.
Yeah.
I love that. It's funny because as I'm saying this to you of like your transformation since I met you, you know, a few years ago, and how what you were manifesting and what you were doing and how you're living now and all the things. But people have said that to me too. And I think you and I both have that problem of like, where it's so easy for us to look at each other or other people and be like, oh my gosh, you've grown so much and look what you've done. And it's like, we know we've grown too, because we see it, we feel it. Like you said, you have a physical representation, you had hives, you know, that are gone, all these different things. But like I used to have really bad headaches, you know what I mean? Like it's just different things. But in saying that to you, like, it's really nice. Like we need to also be seeing our own growth and being like, yeah, we did that. Like you took something as small as your boss suggesting a career coach to you, and you ran with that. And it may have taken you longer than you expected, or you didn't know what you were expecting because you didn't know you were going to be on this journey, but you took that and ran with it. And now all of a sudden, like, you're a career coach. Like, like what?
Pretty wild.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah. I really like what you said about making sure we like reflect on our own success, because that's definitely something I've been noticing in just my 1 month of entrepreneurship is like, it's hard to
we have to give ourselves the gold stars whenever we can, because we're going to have a lot of days that we don't feel like we deserve a gold star. And it's not about that. The whole point is that we're trying to build a more customized quality of life for ourselves, where we, like you said, find joy in the work that we do. And it's not, and that's usually not working for someone else, especially like you said, if you have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, because a growth mindset, people are going to want to input ideas. Like you said, you wanted to create leadership opportunities and helping people, and your boss is like, I need you to do this. And it's like, but that's not what I do. You know, like you don't find I think inspiration in that.
Like, it really comes down to the right people and the right environment. Like, because you can, when you're looking for a job, and I think that's why so many people start their own businesses or are attracted to that, because you get to control the environment and the people, which are the two most difficult parts. The skills and the responsibilities and the projects and the industry and all of that is, and like even the culture, I think, are what we focus on when we look for work. Because it's like, oh, I used to be a this, so I can do this at this company. Like, you know, you stay kind of in your flow, in your lane of what you're capable of. Those are the jobs the recruiters are going to be like, hey, you did that at that company, we want you to come do that at this company. So kind of like breaking out of your lane and your mold is more difficult. But what we don't consider enough is the people we work with, because or we were attracted by like a dollar amount of a salary or a title or something. Maybe it's director, and you've been manager for years, and you're like, I really want to be a director. Or you say no to an opportunity because it doesn't have the title you want. Like, when you get so focused on those other things. But what makes a job good is, are you in an environment where you feel like you are truly yourself authentically and showing your skills and your superpowers, and like really, really getting to like not be dimmed. You are seen, you are heard, you are valued. That is a good job. If you are paid tons of money, but you are not seen, heard, valued, you will hate your job.
What's it worth? Yeah, exactly. It's not worth if you have a
great title, but you are not seen, heard, or valued, like, you will not be happy at that job. And so that is why there's this big wave of, you know, people just quitting and figuring stuff out. but I'm really excited for it. And I think there's just so much more room and like such a need for empathy and sensitivity and like a focus on people in the workplace, so much more than the execution. And like when leaders are hiring for roles or for candidates in their company, it's not what can this person accomplish, it's who is this person and how will they fit in this environment,
into the culture of the company. Yeah.
And so that's something I really, secondary to my primary one-on-one coaching. And I want to build courses. I have courses somewhat built for people at a career crossroads, or like how to be happier at work today, like those types of things. Those are other ways to work with me in addition to one-on-one coaching. But ultimately, I want to create workshops for corporate environments and employers to be able to bring these lessons into their communities at work and really make sure that they're not losing people. Because I think it was a big shock to my boss when I quit, because I wasn't like a bad employee, I was a good employee. And he was like very confused why I didn't want to work there or didn't fit there. And so I think
well, I think that's normal though. I've seen that time and time again. My husband, when he quit his job, he was working at Toyota, and when we started dating, I was traveling all the time and he had like no time off. And so I was like, oh, we're going to need to shift this. And he made the decision, finally, okay, I'm going to be done. And his boss was like, when they get to a point of like running and in that CEO position and making multiple six figures, they just see, again, like you have blinders on, you're just in that bubble. And my husband was like, I'm going to, I'm going to give you my 2 weeks. And he's like, well, what do you need? Do you need more money? Like, do you need, like, I can give you more and he's like, no, I just don't like, I mean, at the end of the day, without saying it to him, it's like, I don't want your life. Like, I'm not trying to work up to do this. I actually like have, a girlfriend, I have a life, I have I want to build a life I love. And it wasn't doing that. And, same thing, my brother and I, when we've had retail jobs in between our entrepreneurship, it's like, we're always great employees. People want us there. We have great sales skills. We have, we're really great with people, but then you get to a point where it's like, well, I'm good at that because I run my own business. I'm not here to do this, what I'm saying? But I'm also not going to like half-ass this job because that's not who I am. When I show up in life, I show up 100% no matter what I'm doing. So I think that makes sense. And I think that is actually a very awesome, we talk a lot about red flags, but I think that's a great green flag of like, if you go up to your boss and you say, I'm giving you my 2 weeks, don't ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? Is this aligned? If your boss says, why? Because they want to keep you because you're a good employee, that's when it's like, I don't belong here anymore. I need to go do my own thing. At least that's what I've seen in my immediate circle of people who made the leap.
And it brings up I think it's true for when you're looking for jobs too, because I think we often have the mindset of like, okay, what can I do for this company? Like, I can help them with this. I can help them with this. I can help with this. But like, we don't often think about like, what this company needs me. Like for this, like, what does this company need out of me?
Right. And how is it going to provide me with a good quality of life, especially if I'm giving, a third of my life to this, or even more. Most people give like 2/3 of their life to their job. Like, how is it providing me with something that I enjoy?
And I think just something I try to do with my clients is really shift the perspective of like it's hard as an employer to get budget for an open job rec. Like that is one of the hardest things to do in a team. Like, because typically corporations are like, there's way more work than there are people. That's why people are so overworked and underpaid and that kind of thing. Because they're like, okay, how do we, whatever helps the bottom line, right? But when there is a job opening, that random thing you're applying to on LinkedIn, that is somebody's lifesaver that they're like, please come help. We need help with this. Right now, this work is not getting done. Someone needs to do it. We need someone really, really good. Like, please come help us. And I think we think of applying to jobs as like, oh, I hope they pick me. I hope they like me. But it's like, no, you're picking them. Like employers need you so much more than you need them, especially in this current job market.
Yes.
It's such an exciting time to be picky.
I totally agree. It's such an exciting time.
Yay.
I love it. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for me. I'm excited for where everything can go. And I'm so appreciative of your friendship and
Yes, of course.
your coaching, collaborations that we've had. And it's just been incredible to grow together. And I cannot wait.
Likewise, thank you for having me, and congrats on your upcoming travel. I know that's a huge milestone for you. And you're right on time. It's all good.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys want to reach out to Kelly, this episode resonated with you and you feel all the feelings, all of her links are in the show notes. And I just hope that you all keep asking yourself the